In a lavishly decorated room, a small baby sleeps peacefully in a golden crib. She begins to stir, letting out a soft groan. Her eyes flutter open to the sight of two tiny, unfamiliar hands. Wiggling her feet, she realizes her whole body has shrunk. She sits up, only to be met with the wide, curious eyes of another baby in the same crib. The horrifying truth crashes down on her as she screams internally, "Not again! I've regressed again!" Meanwhile, an oracle's prophecy spreads throughout the land, telling of a child chosen by God, and the imperial church begins its search. Church officials are dispatched across the empire, examining every child they can find. They search for a sign, a mark that will prove the child's divine connection. Their quest eventually leads them to a quiet, unassuming town. They arrive at a small, secluded orphanage on the outskirts of town, and the child of destiny they found there was a little girl with brilliant blue eyes who immediately captivated them. Born on a leap year and possessing divine power, that child was me. As the chosen one, I was adopted by the imperial family. The temple took charge of my education, hoping to awaken my full potential. But no matter how hard they tried, my divine power simply wouldn't manifest. I failed to summon the crest of God, the ultimate proof of my divinity. The temple and the imperial family, who had once cherished me, now cast me aside in despair. But just as all hope was lost, a brilliant light appeared. And from that light, the true child of destiny appeared. It turned out I was the fake one, and for the crime of deceiving the imperial family, I was sacrificed to seal an evil god. But then, time itself began to rewind. When I opened my eyes, I had regressed to being 4 years old. At first, I was ecstatic, vowing to live a better life this time around. However, I failed. I died again, and returned to being 4 years old once more. This is now my 4th life. I've been through this so many times, I've memorized the entire script. I know the Empress Dowager will be here soon. And right on cue, the maids announce the day's main event. It's time to choose the father who will adopt you, LeBlaine. This day, when the Empress Dowager makes me choose a father, is the starting point of all my regressions. My first option, the righteous hero of the empire, Duke Amity. The second is Duke Valois, from a prestigious family that has produced 1,000 scholars. And the third is the villain of villains, a man of immense military power and wealth, Duke Doubled. In my first life, I chose Duke Amity. He was just as kind as the rumors said, a man who truly loved his people. I was so happy to finally have a father. But he always seemed to walk right past me. I could feel a wall between us, but I just told myself he was busy. As an orphan, I was simply happy to have a dad at all. And that was enough for me. Until Mina appeared, fawning all over the Duke. It turns out Mina was the spitting image of the Duke's deceased first love, and he adopted her without a second thought. The two of them got along perfectly, with Mina acting like a spoiled child and the Duke loving every second of it, leaving LeBlaine so very alone. She became an outcast, framed for poisoning Mina and hated by everyone. No one believed her pleas of innocence. Even her own father, the man she chose, despised her. His solution was chilling. If you are truly repentant, then become a sacrifice. She could only stare in disbelief. He ordered her to die for Mina and the world, and so she faced her first death. And that triggered her very first regression. Do you think I'm crazy enough to go back to the Amity Duchy? Not a chance. So in my second life, I chose Duke Valois. But he was just irredeemable trash, obsessed with me manifesting the crest of God. His wife was just as bad, quick to believe the rumors that I was a fake. He screamed that I was a useless girl, and it ended in another death, much to the Grim Reaper's surprise. In my third life, I tried to run away, but a small child with no money can only get so far. I starved to death on a bridge. It happened so often that even death himself was getting sick of me. So, back in the present, my options are limited. Duke Amity and Duke Valois are out, and running away is a death sentence. Then there's only one path left. And my choice shocked everyone. I was taken to the Doubled estate, a place as grand as it was infamous. And there he was. The one I chose was the world's greatest villain, Duke Doubled, who wondered if I was sent just to be crushed under his foot. His aide nervously explained that the Empress Dowager herself had sent me, but the Duke's response was as cold as ice. The old woman has gone senile, send her back. As his aide panicked, I finally got a good look at him, so that's Theodore Doubled, the villain said to possess the greatest wealth in the empire, and such incredible beauty. My mind immediately went into overdrive. Why would a man like this remain a widower his whole life? The Duchess died years ago, didn't she? His adjutant tried to convince him, saying this was a chance to mend their relationship with the church. But as I listened, I knew, no, Mr. Adjutant, you're wrong. Judging from all my past experiences, I know one thing for sure. Threats from the church or the Empress Dowager won't work on this man. But I have to live here. This family is rich, and best of all, they won't care about a child of destiny. It's the perfect place to lay low, save up a fortune, and finally escape this crappy empire for good. My real goal isn't to be adopted, it's to seek asylum. A peaceful life on a tropical beach, far away from all this drama. But to earn my escape funds, I have to get Duke doubled to keep me, and to do that, I played my trump card, shouting as clearly as I could, December 7th, thank you for the unannounced tax sit. They just stared back in confusion. Right. My pronunciation is terrible because I'm still a toddler. That was my ultimate move. What do I do now? With no other options, I lunged forward and grabbed his leg. Somehow, through the garbled mess, Duke Doubled understood her perfectly. She quickly plays it off, whispering that it's a secret. With everything on the line, she silently pleads, I can be useful, so please keep me. The Duke is already considering the implications, but his adjutant is still doubtful. LeBlanc knows this isn't a joke. This audit caused massive damage to the Doubled family in the past. He glares down, questioning how a child could possess such specific secret information. The adjutant, sensing the shift in atmosphere, scrambles to investigate. She looks up, waiting for his verdict. Did it work? But the Duke's first order of business is a bath? He says she smells like a soap-eating pony. LeBlanc panics, thinking they're just washing her before shipping her back. No, she can't get sent back! In a desperate scramble, LeBlanc makes a run for it. The adjutant gasps as she charges straight for the unmoving Duke, but her tiny legs give out and she trips. She latches onto the Duke's leg, clinging on for dear life. Just then, a white-haired boy who looks suspiciously like the Duke walks in, utterly confused by the scene. LeBlanc switches tactics, unleashing her ultimate weapon, a blindingly cute smile, asking for a hug. The Duke is completely immune, lifting her by the collar and telling her not to make a fuss. But her mind is screaming in terror, I don't want to die again, I don't want to regress again. She makes a silent, desperate vow. She'll barely eat. She'll never ask for love. She just wants to stay. Snuggling into his chest, she makes her final plea. I like the Duke. Let me stay here. LeBlanc clings to the Duke, her tiny body pressed against his chest. Internally, she's praying with all her might, please let this work. She knows the man she's clinging to exists at the very center of power in the vast empire of Wigzantera. For centuries, its power has been balanced between three pillars, the national religion, Nereid, and the imperial family, and finally the 5 great ducal houses. But this delicate balance is destined to shatter when she turns 15, because Duke Theodore Doubled will rise from the ashes of his rivals to become the sole pillar of power, a man who will destroy anyone in his path. And this terrifying future tyrant is the very man whose house she's desperately trying to enter. For now, she's been granted a temporary reprieve, allowed to stay as a distinguished guest in the Doubled household. She's relieved she wasn't kicked out, but knows this is just the first step to securing her future. To prove her worth, she digs deep into her memories, recalling a crucial piece of information. She reveals another bombshell, the location of the legendary and priceless orichalcum, a secret that leaves the Duke's men completely stunned. Her intel is so valuable that she's essentially paying her way by leaking secrets about the temple and the imperial family. Her shocking cleverness leaves everyone in awe, and LeBlanc secretly revels in the chaos she's causing for her former tormentors. They're all convinced she must be the true child of fate, but LeBlanc knows the truth. She's a fake, and her future knowledge has its limits. Her biggest limitation is her own body. When her basic needs aren't met, her adult mind gives way to simple, childish instincts. The Duke's men are completely won over, with one calling her admirable. But his sudden praise makes LeBlanc flinch away in fear. To everyone's shock, she instinctively clings to Duke Doubled, the one person she should be most afraid of. His vassals find it amusing, noting that the shy little girl only spills state secrets while sitting on the villain's lap. LeBlanc herself is confused. Her past trauma makes her fear adult men, yet she feels strangely safe with the Duke. The Duke, ever stoic, tells her to come down and sit properly. And so, her temporary life as a guest in the grand Doubled mansion begins. As a reward for her intel, one of the men gives her a piece of candy, and her inner 4-year-old is thrilled. But as the men leave, she struggles with the wrapper, a simple task made difficult by her tiny hands. Suddenly, a large hand gently helps her, and LeBlanc looks up to see the Duke himself opening the candy for her. She stares in shock at the unwrapped candy, but her 4-year-old brain completely misreads the situation. Her eyes well up as she thinks, even if you're a villain stealing candy from a kid, how mean. But instead of taking it, he gently pops it right into her mouth. Seeing his chance, the Duke asks if she'll trade secrets about his family's affairs for more candy. Her answer is a swift and adorable no. He presses her. Why not? Because I'm on the Duke's side, she declares with unwavering loyalty. And for the first time, the stone-cold villain smiles. A passing maid is so stunned she can't believe her eyes, as the Duke himself offers to escort the baby. The Duke coldly instructs the maid not to let her wander, and LeBlanc convinces herself she must have imagined his smile. But she quickly realizes that even if he's cold-blooded, life in the doubled estate is basically paradise, pure unadulterated bliss. A few days later, LeBlanc isn't just enjoying the luxury, she's executing a master plan to secure her position. First, she targets the influential maid, Linda, running to her with pure excitement. She whispers that Linda is her absolute favorite, completely conquering the head maid's heart. Next, she singles out a maid named Dahlia with a very precious piece of candy. Leaning in, she uses her secret weapon once again. I like you the best. After charming Dahlia, she shows deep concern for another maid, Uni, who is feeling sick. And just like that, she successfully wins over the all-important snack manager. And with her ultimate weapon, she whispers that Uni is secretly her favorite. The daily records manager is completely captivated. With her mission accomplished, the maids are now wrapped around her little finger. This was all part of her master plan. Now, even if the Duke turns on her, she'll have the maids on her side. But the best part of her new life is her personal nanny, Leah. It's a stark contrast to her previous lives, where she was constantly surrounded by cruel whispers about being a fake. But in this life, Leah fiercely protects her, shutting down any nasty rumors. For the first time, someone is kind to her without any ulterior motives or manipulation on her part. Leah gently tucks her in for the night, and as she drifts off to sleep, LeBlanc wonders if this warm, safe feeling is what it's like to have a mother. Night falls over the doubled estate, but LeBlanc's peaceful sleep is abruptly cut short by a rumbling in her tiny stomach. Her childlike instincts kick in. This is a huge problem. The hunger is so overwhelming she can't maintain her adult thought process. She remembers her blunder. The maids saw her sleeping so soundly they decided to let her skip dinner. When her mind regresses, she becomes a troublesome kid on a mission for food. She knows she shouldn't wander around at night, but the urge is just too powerful. Her little feet carry her down the dark hall until she stops dead in her tracks. Her adult logic is gone, replaced by the simple, powerful drive of a hungry child. The hunger triggers a flood of traumatic memories from her second life with Duke Valois. Locked in an attic for days, she was so desperate she ate raw potatoes just to survive. But even that small act of survival was met with cruelty and shame. Then comes the memory of her third life, watching others eat as she slowly starved to death. Her hungry mind conjures up the image of a heavenly food skewer. The feeling is just too much. The trauma is overwhelming her adult mind, leaving only fear and instinct. And that instinct screams one thing: find something to eat now. She scurries through the massive mansion, a tiny shadow on a desperate quest. Nothing is going to stand in her way. Her tiny hands push open the kitchen door, and there, like a beacon in the night, sits a single loaf of bread. I found it, bread, she cries, clutching it like a priceless treasure. Knowing she's in trouble, she scurries to make her escape, but she runs smack into something solid. A massive shadow looms over her as a deep voice asks, "What?" She looks up in absolute horror. It's Duke Doubled, and he does not look pleased. Paralyzed with fear, LeBlanc can only tremble on the floor. But as she stares up at him, a mysterious blue rose blooms within her eyes. In her terror, a memory from her first life flashes through her mind, a story Mina once told Duke Amity about a man who stole bread. Duke Amity had asked what happened next, and Mina, with a sickeningly sweet smile, had declared, "He was executed." The memory short-circuits her brain. Snapping back to the present, she's frozen on the floor thinking, what do I do? The Duke's voice cuts through the silence, his gaze sharp and cold. What were you doing in my castle? Her mind screams, I'm going to die. He continues, so you were the Empress Dowager's con artist. Desperate, LeBlanc blurts out, I'm the child of destiny. She stammers, trying to sound convincing. Yes? But the Duke's expression darkens. I hate liars, he says, his voice dangerously low, especially those who make naive proposals, claiming to be on my side. He contemplates, his voice a venomous whisper. Now, how should I deal with a little rat like this? All of LeBlain's carefully constructed plans shatter, leaving only a terrified child who sobs, I was wrong. The Duke's eyes narrow, demanding an answer. Wrong about what? Her mind, trapped in the memory of Mina's cruel story, blurts out a confession to a crime she didn't commit. I stole something. The Duke is completely baffled. Money! LeBlain frantically shakes her head no. A holy relic, he guesses. Still shaking her head, she can't even speak. Military secrets? Losing his patience, the Duke roars, Then what was it? And in a burst of tear-filled, sparkly light, LeBlain wails her earth-shattering confession, Bread! The terrifying tension instantly vanishes, leaving Duke doubled in a state of pure, unadulterated confusion. The Duke's brain practically short-circuits. Bread. Her grand confession was about bread. Sometime later, the whole household is summoned to the Duke's office. The maids are practically vibrating with fear. He sits in judgment, looking utterly exhausted by the night's events, while a tiny LeBlain waits for her sentence. Her nanny, Leah, steps forward to explain what really happened. She tells him LeBlain missed dinner and was so hungry she was eating discarded bread from the trash. Uni, the snack manager, is overcome with guilt. Hearing this, the Duke's expression shifts, and a terrifying oppressive aura suddenly erupts from him. Leah acts fast, grabbing LeBlain to shield her from the Duke's overwhelming anger. The Duke's rage is so palpable the very air seems to crackle around him. But his anger isn't directed at LeBlain. He's confused why the child who clung to him so bravely is now terrified. His adjutant quickly explains, She thinks she's being scolded. Sobbing into her nanny's shoulder, LeBlain thinks, It's not that I dislike him. I felt safe with him, but just now, I really thought I was going to die. Leah holds the trembling child close. Her eyes fill with fierce determination. And with the conviction of a general leading her troops, she declares, The baby needs to finish her meal. I'll be going now. The rest of the staff is left completely stunned by her audacity. But as the Duke watches her go, his expression shifts into something unreadable and intense. The staff can only watch in abject horror, convinced they're all about to die. But the terrifying Duke simply lets out a weary sigh and concedes, All right. That's the signal! Leah leads a tactical retreat, whisking LeBlain and the other maids away at top speed. The Duke's adjutant collapses in sheer relief, while the maids celebrate their new hero, the amazing Leah. Later, once she's safe, a tiny LeBlain apologizes, I'm sorry for being hungry all the time. But a gentle hand stops her. Leah pulls her into a warm embrace, reassuring her, Don't say that. Babies need to eat a lot and sleep a lot. Overwhelmed by this genuine affection, LeBlain makes a heartfelt decision. I want to live here, because Leah is here. The next morning dawns bright and clear, and for the first time, the doubled estate feels less like a villain's lair and more like a place she could truly call home. A few days after the bread incident, LeBlain is settling into a surprisingly cheerful routine, greeting the staff. The maids are completely smitten, and she thinks to herself, finally some peace, or not. Her peaceful stroll comes to a dead halt as she runs into Duke Doubled. He awkwardly addresses her, LeBlain, you should study. And her old fears immediately resurface. When he suddenly tells her to wait, she practically jumps out of her skin. Seeing her terror, the adjutant whispers some advice. She's still frightened. Try calling her name affectionately. But LeBlain isn't buying it. He can't even say my name right, she thinks. How could he say it affectionately? Ignoring the suggestion, the Duke's piercing eyes lock on her as he gives a simple order. Follow me. The adjutant gives her a gentle nudge forward, but LeBlain has no idea what's happening. He leads her to a massive, ornate door and stops, leaving her to wonder what on earth he has planned. The Duke swings the door open with a grand, if slightly stiff, gesture. I'll give this to you, he declares. LeBlain is completely floored. Give her what? She cautiously peeks inside, but all she sees is a dark, empty room. A horrifying memory from her second life flashes through her mind. Duke Valois' cruel voice ordering her to be locked away. Her imagination runs wild. You're not going to lock me up, are you? She thinks, as the Duke wonders why she's so frightened. The Duke watches her, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. Then, for the first time, he says her name properly with a strange sort of gravity, LeBlain. She freezes, completely stunned. He knew her name. He awkwardly turns away, gesturing with his hand. There's a lot of this stuff over there. He opens his palm, revealing a handful of sparkling candies. LeBlain's eyes go wide, the sweet treats reflected in them. Candy? And it wasn't just candy. It was a mountain of cookies. The dark, empty room was actually a treasure trove of every sweet imaginable. LeBlain's eyes sparkle with pure, unadulterated joy. Forgetting all her fear, she dives headfirst into a pile of cookies. She happily stuffs her face while the Duke and his adjutant watch in stunned silence. She thinks, oh no, I saw a fairy tale room and completely lost my mind. Remembering her manners, she offers a cookie to the Duke, declaring, it's heartless to eat alone. The Duke just stares, completely silent. He seems almost choked up, repeating her words in disbelief. What did you say? Then, he gently pokes her stuffed cheek and asks, are you a squirrel? Your cheeks are about to burst. Still in his arms, LeBlain beams up at him and says, Duke, thank you very much. For the first time, a genuine tiny smile graces the Duke's lips as he replies, well, of course. After the bread incident, a truly peaceful and happy routine begins for LeBlain. Well, mostly peaceful. She gets caught by a very strict Leah after breaking her 1 candy a day promise by eating 7. And she receives a surprise gift from one of the doubled senior vassals, an adorable elephant bag. Guanpa is the best, she cheers as the maids melt from the cuteness. But in her mind, she's already thinking, this is perfect for my escape bag. One day, the maids start dressing her up in a beautiful new dress, making her wonder what the special occasion is. Leah smiles warmly and reveals, today, His Excellency will introduce you to the vassals. Leah explains there will be lots of people, and even another sponsored child, so LeBlain might make a new friend. LeBlain knows all about the sponsorship system. On the surface, it's a traditional social contribution project for nobles, but the truth is much darker. It's a system for powerful families to raise gifted children into assets they desire. Sponsored children receive all kinds of support, from a systematic education to entry into the family's exclusive social network. And of course, tremendous financial backing, which is why families with more power are the most sought-after sponsors. She knows that these days, even children of provincial nobles are desperate for sponsorship from a great family. Leah holds out her hand with a gentle smile. Shall we go? As she takes it, LeBlain can't help but wonder who the doubled family's sponsored child could possibly be. They begin their walk down the long hall. Her eyes land on another child. As they enter the grand hall, a voice calls out to them. She sees a group of vassals fawning over a young boy, praising young Master Jude for already memorizing the names of several high-ranking nobles. Seeing the other child's success, LeBlain knows she needs to make a good impression too. She puts on her best smile and gives a cheerful, hello. And just like that, the vassals are completely captivated by her cuteness. But her attention is drawn to the boy himself. She looks up, and her blood runs cold. Hey, that guy! She knows him. Marco Jude. And he's one of the worst people she has ever met. Her mind flashes back to her second life, when she was the daughter of Duke Valois and attended the academy. Back then, he was a professor, and he'd use any excuse to single her out. He'd praise her grades, but his intentions were anything but academic. His true goal was to marry into the Valois family, and he was disgustingly pushy, whispering promises of making her life more comfortable. She shoved the creep away, horrified. But when she rejected him, he turned the tables and painted her as the perpetrator. He put on a show, arguing that if she really hated it, she would have reported him immediately. The court of public opinion was swayed by his lies. But she was just a child, unable to comprehend the dark intentions of a man so much older than her. He used her silence and confusion as weapons, screaming, if you hated it so much, why didn't you scream? And then came the final, soul-crushing lie. In the end, you liked it too. Because I was scared, she remembers. My body froze in fear and I couldn't even scream. Her protests fell on deaf ears. His only punishment was a 6-month pay cut. Meanwhile, she was the one branded as promiscuous and expelled from the academy. Snapping back to the present, LeBlain's tiny fist clenches with pure rage. Just thinking about that time makes her want to punch his head in. She forces herself to calm down. He's still just a kid. She can't hit him for crimes he hasn't committed yet. As the vassals praise Jude's supposed genius, LeBlain knows attacking him now would just make her look like the weird one. What a liar, she thinks. Remembering he was a famous idiot at the academy who always needed his father to bail him out, it's obvious. Just like in the future, his parents must have paid a real genius to create those formulas for him. So she sits beside the smug little fraud, quietly observing. Suddenly, his face twists into a sinister grin, his eyes glowing red as he whispers, You saw that, right? LeBlanc is stunned into silence. Jude glances around smugly as if he's already won. He leans in, his voice dripping with contempt. Someone like you could never beat me, fake. And suddenly, it all makes sense. He thinks she's his competition. Deciding he's not worth her time, LeBlanc chooses the path of enlightenment and completely ignores him. Her eyes narrow with an adult's pity. But Jude keeps pushing. I heard the Empress Dowager threw you away into the trash heap called Doubled. His smile turns vicious as he adds, because you're trash too. In her past lives, words like that would have crushed her. She was naive and alone, unable to say a word in her own defense. But this time is different, because this time, she's not taking anyone's crap. With a powerful crack, LeBlanc delivers a headbutt straight to Jude's face. The entire hall goes silent. In her mind, it's not just a headbutt, it's a full-on beatdown, a 2-hit, 3-hit, 5-hit combo. She imagines herself standing over him, a champion, thinking, mess with me again and you'll get hurt, kid. The fantasy is complete with her adoring fans, the maids, declaring her the winner by knockout. But reality comes crashing back in as a man screams, "What do you think you're doing?" The vassals are absolutely stunned. It's Baron Jude, Marco's father, and he rushes to his son's side. Jude immediately plays the victim, crying, "That crazy guy suddenly grabbed me." But LeBlanc just calmly holds up a single finger. With a tiny, determined finger, she points at the sniveling boy and declares, "He's a bad kid." The vassals are completely lost. "Pardon? What do you mean?" LeBlanc masterfully reframes the insult. "He said I'm only here because Doubled is trash." A heavy silence falls over the room. For a second, LeBlanc worries she's made a mistake. What if the Duke punishes her for using violence? But the vassals are crying? "For us," they sob. "You got angry for our sake. An angel." LeBlanc is utterly confused. She just wanted to hit him. Jude panics, shouting, "That's a lie! He's the one lying!" But a cold voice cuts in. "He, huh?" Duke Doubled's eyes are like ice. The temperature in the room plummets as he says, "To a child under my protection, no less." Baron Jude breaks out in a cold sweat, stammering, I misspoke. I was just upset." Baron Jude desperately tries to defend his son. "There's no way my son would refer to Doubled like that." But the Duke is unmoved. With a terrifying glare, he offers Jude a single, chilling chance. He leans in, his voice dripping with menace. "Even if your thigh is branded and your eyes are gouged out, can you still swear you're telling the truth?" His eyes glow with cold fury as he continues, "If so, I'll overlook this little commotion." But the threat doesn't stop there. Of course, if you cannot prove it, it will not end with just you. The Duke's presence is overwhelming as he asks the final question. I'll ask again. Are my child's words a lie or the truth? Jude can barely speak, stammering through his terror. LeBlanc watches calmly. She knows that no matter how sly Marco is, he wouldn't dare lie to the Duke of Doubled. And she's right. Broken by the pressure, Jude confesses, "It's the truth." His father cries out in disbelief, "Marco!" as the boy's world comes crashing down. Baron Jude desperately clutches the Duke's leg. He begs for his life, crying out that he's committed a mortal sin. But Duke Doubled is unmoved. With a cold glare, he orders, "Take him away." The guards immediately step forward. As his father is dragged off screaming for forgiveness, a terrified Marco is hauled away right behind him. With the troublemakers gone, peace returns to the Doubled estate. The vassals are now completely smitten with LeBlanc, praising her for bravely standing up to a bigger boy. LeBlanc realizes they've constructed an entire fantasy in their heads, where a smug Marco lorded over a helpless little girl. In their version of events, she was the perfect, tragic guest, too noble to cause a scene. And they believe without a doubt that Marco declared the entire Doubled family was a pile of trash. In their minds, she declared, "It's fine if he calls me names, but I won't tolerate anyone insulting Doubled." And with a mighty "take this," she delivered a blow for the family's honor. LeBlanc knows this is probably what they're all thinking, and though her conscience stings a little, she decides to look on the bright side. She successfully made a good impression on the Duke's inner circle. Sitting on his lap, she glances up, wondering if she made a good impression on the Duke too. Suddenly, a hand reaches for her face and she flinches in shock. But he was just gently wiping a smudge from her cheek. The vassals gossip, noting that the baby who is shy around men clings only to his excellency. Come to think of it, she only smiles at him, one says. You must be happy, being loved so dearly." As the vassals weep with jealousy, the Duke remains unmoved, thinking, "Those who have never know the sorrow of those who have not." The Duke, however, is completely unfazed, thinking it's all just a nuisance. And surprisingly, LeBlanc feels the exact same way. This is all just a petty hassle. But as they say, pleasure comes after hardship, and her reward is a trip to the bustling town square. Her nanny Leah is thrilled that she finally got permission to go out, a direct result of the vassals now adoring her. LeBlanc is ecstatic. She's finally going shopping for all the things she needs. The streets are alive with performers, sweet treats, and happy crowds. For the first time, LeBlanc gets to experience the simple joy of a day out. And then her eyes land on the ultimate prize, a toy shop. She recognizes it instantly, the must-have toy of the season. A special bunny doll that says, "I like you" when you hug it. She remembers it all too well from her first life. Back then, she had begged her father for that very doll. But Duke Amity, the so-called righteous hero, used it as a chance to guilt-trip her. He'd asked her, "Do you still want the doll?" Crushed, she could only say no, and he praised her for gaining compassion, completely oblivious to the fact he'd just broken his daughter's heart over a simple toy. The truth is, she really, really wanted it. To add insult to injury, years later, Duke Amity gave that exact same doll to Mina for her 18th birthday. And the smile he gave Mina was far brighter than any she had ever received. LeBlanc shakes her head, trying to banish the painful memory. Her nanny, Leah, misinterprets her stare and cheerfully asks if she wants to buy some toys. LeBlanc's face instantly brightens, touched by how kind and considerate Leah is. With the other maids in tow, they enter the magnificent toy shop. Leah tells her to pick anything she likes, and LeBlanc can't believe what she's hearing. The maids are completely overwhelmed by her adorable reaction. Giddy with excitement, LeBlanc starts looking around the shop. But as she scans the shelves, something catches her eye. It's a beautiful red carnation corsage, and a light bulb goes off in her head. Gratitude Day is coming up soon. Gratitude Day is a special holiday, a day where children give carnations to their parents as a sign of thanks. LeBlanc is torn. She could get the corsage, but all these amazing toys are calling to her. The wooden animals and building blocks seem to whisper, "Buy me!" Her little face scrunches up, tears welling in her eyes. It's an impossible choice. But with a burst of resolve, she points decisively. "I can't waste this chance on toys. I choose this one." Leah looks on, completely baffled. "But sweetie, that's not a toy. It's a carnation corsage." With wide, innocent eyes, LeBlanc explains, "The kids at the orphanage said you give it to someone you like. I want to give it as a present, too." Leah's heart melts, but LeBlanc's inner monologue is a little more strategic. "I'll give it to Leah. She'll probably give me more snacks, right?" She admits to herself, "I thought about giving it to the Duke, but..." Remembering his cold demeanor, she concludes, "It'd just be a bother." Yeah, definitely not a good idea. If I annoy him and he dislikes me, that'd be bad. So the decision is made. Leah happily buys the corsage, and LeBlanc cheers, ready to surprise her nanny. Back at the sprawling doubled estate, some of the vassals are strolling through the halls, chatting cheerfully. One of them spots a familiar red flower on his colleague's chest. "Oh, a carnation corsage." The other man puffs up with pride. "Did you get it from your daughter?" "Ah, yes." He's practically floating with joy. "Tomorrow is Gratitude Day, and she pinned it on me. There's no joy like raising children." "Honestly," he gushes, "what use are honor or wealth? None of it compares to the happiness of a child's love." But they've been overheard. The vassals turn to Duke Doubled, trying to include him. "Those who've never received a carnation are pitiful. Don't you agree, Your Excellency?" The Duke's expression hardens, the word echoing in his mind. Pitiful. The men are instantly confused. "Pardon?" With a quiet, almost somber tone, Duke Doubled admits, "I've never received a carnation." The vassals are absolutely floored. Never? Not even once? But he has 3 sons. One of them tries desperately to smooth things over. Well, boys aren't exactly delicate. They probably just say thank you. But the Duke cuts him down with a single icy statement. "I've never heard that either." The vassals realize they've made a terrible mistake, digging their own graves with every word. The vassal is absolutely horrified by this revelation. But just as the awkward silence becomes unbearable, a small figure appears in the doorway. It's LeBlanc, proudly holding the carnation corsage. The vassals spot her, and their mood instantly flips from despair to ecstatic joy. They crowd around the Duke, weeping with relief. A carnation! At last your excellency will receive one, too. But Leblanc freezes, intimidated by the Duke's piercing stare. The vassals, however, are completely lost in their own happy world, imagining how grateful the sweet child must be. And then something miraculous happens. A faint, gentle smile appears on Duke Doubled's face. Yes, he says softly. Carnations do make one happy. Seizing the moment, the vassals gently nudge Leblanc forward. Go on. You should give it to him now. She hesitates, her mind flashing back to a painful memory. It's my first time. Duke Amity never accepted one from me. In her past life, Duke Amity had cruelly rejected her gift. So this time, Leblanc makes a different choice. She turns to her nanny, Leah, and presents the flower. I like you, thank you. The vassals freeze in absolute horror, and the Duke's rare smile instantly vanishes. I didn't realize it was a maid's, one of them mutters, the hope draining from his face. But Leblanc and Leah, oblivious, happily skip away from the tense scene. Leah is overjoyed, promising to treasure the gift forever. Leblanc basks in the warmth of genuine affection, but a sudden chill runs down her spine. Behind her, the Duke's cold voice cuts through the air. Leblanc! She freezes, turning around with a nervous, yes? The Duke's voice is ice as he asks, do I not have one? But Leblanc, in a spectacular misreading of the situation, beams. Nope. I knew you'd find it annoying, so I made sure not to get you one. I did a good job, right? She stands there, proud of her consideration, as the Duke's face turns to stone and the vassals look on in abject terror. The fallout is swift and absolute. That very evening, a decree is issued across all doubled lands. Gratitude Day is officially abolished. A few days pass, and Leblanc is happily rolling around in her room, completely oblivious to the holiday she just had canceled. Outside, Leah hums a cheerful tune, tending to the garden. The red carnation is still pinned proudly to her dress. Leblanc watches her, thinking, Leah has treasured that corsage for days. She must really love it. A knock sounds at her door. It's the Duke's adjutant, asking with a warm smile, Shall we go to His Excellency's office? Leblanc jumps for joy, knowing today is the day they'll report her progress to the Empress Dowager. The adjutant chuckles at her boundless energy, gently wiping her face. The maids all wave her off fondly. She holds his hand as they walk down the grand corridor. But on the way, she spots servants moving large boxes. He explains they're organizing gifts for the Emperor's birthday, which reminds Leblanc of how frantic the nobles would get around this time. She recalls how Duke Amity was too cheap to send proper gifts, while Duke Valois would go into debt just to show off his wealth. But Valois' generosity was a facade. He was an incredible miser, especially when it came to her. He'd scream at her, calling her a leech for just living in his house. He'd then drag her away, forbidding her from leaving the attic, and toss her into the darkness. She remembers overhearing his real sons talking, confused about why asking for a fountain pen was a crime. The younger one asked, Then why did Leblanc get scolded? The older brother's reply was a harsh truth. She's not his real child. That was the moment Leblanc understood she would always be hated for trivial things, simply because she wasn't blood. This memory fuels her determination now. She has to win Duke Doubled's favor, or she'll lose her chance to be adopted. The adjutant opens the grand doors to the office. Leblanc runs inside, calling out for the Duke, only to be met with the coldest, most terrifying glare she's ever seen. Utterly clueless, Leblanc can only wonder why the Duke looks so upset. His glare is absolute ice. She flinches back in fear, and immediately dives for cover behind the adjutant's leg. Leaning down, the adjutant whispers a little white lie. His Excellency is not angry at the baby, leading Leblanc to conclude he must be angry about something else. In that case, her little brain starts putting the pieces together. The adjutant tries to give her a helpful hint for the future. Please prepare 2 carnations next time. And that's when it hits her. The money she spent at the store was the Duke's money, and she spent a lot. The horrifying realization dawns. I splurged all that money and didn't buy a single thing for the Duke. She panics, thinking if she buys a gift now, it'll look like she's protesting him being petty about the money. A new fire of determination ignites within her. I need to do something that'll make him happy instead. She searches through her memories, looking for any useful information from her past lives. And then, a memory hits her like a lightning bolt. A birthday celebration, and the perfect gift. A simple rock on a satin pillow. She remembers her confusion. Why is a rock inside such a fancy jewel box? But as she focuses on the memory, the rock begins to glow with a sinister purple aura. What is that? A massive, glowing red magic circle erupts from the stone. The sheer power of the memory makes her flinch, and a ghostly vision of Duke Amity appears, his face pale with shock as he whispers, "Child." He looks down at the source of the power, completely bewildered. What is this? The vision fades, leaving LeBlanc in a dark, strange place as a faint voice echoes in her mind. Wait, the vision continues, showing the chaos that erupted from that single stone as people scream, "Is it an earthquake?" She snaps back to the present, the vision finally over. But something is wrong. What are these lights of desire swarming into me? On top of that, she's losing control of her own body, which is moving on its own. Her hand reaches out and, against her will, crushes the rock into dust. The two men watching her are stunned. What is this? LeBlanc is in full-blown panic mode. The brown-haired man recognizes the dust with dawning horror. This is Nuit! And a horrifying realization hits LeBlanc. She knows that name. It's an infamous, incredibly powerful artifact, the evil god's relic. The brown-haired man quickly tries to cover for her, blaming poor storage for the relic's sudden destruction. But the white-haired man with glasses isn't buying it. He just sighs, "How troublesome." LeBlanc trembles, trying to explain that she didn't mean to do it. But the white-haired man's response is ice cold. "You really are a bother." Her plan to win favor has backfired spectacularly. He dismisses her, telling her to go back to her room. But before she can, the world gives way and she collapses. Her small body goes limp. The white-haired man's eyes glow as he watches her fall. A panicked voice screams for the baby. But LeBlanc is already lost in a memory, back in her first life with Duke Amity. She remembers how she once saw him as a righteous hero, someone she deeply respected. To live as his daughter, I had to give up so much. But I thought it was fine, as long as he just smiled at me. Duke Amity gave me a room to stay in. He taught me the duties of a noble, and we even dined together. But he never truly opened his heart or treated me like his real child. Then Mina appeared, running to him and calling him Daddy. He treated her with a warmth and familiarity he never showed me. For Mina, he had a radiant smile, the brightest smile of all, and I just accepted it, telling myself it was okay because Mina was the true child of destiny. I resolved to just work harder, to give more, believing that one day he would finally look at me too. But the memory of neglect is suddenly ripped away by a far more terrifying one. The voice of Duke Valois screaming, "You impudent little rat!" Her second life with the Valois family was a living nightmare. His wife's words echoed in her mind, "You're only fit to die nameless in some gutter." And the Duke's cold, cutting voice, "Useless girl." The memories of her desperate pleas flood back. "I'm sorry, don't hit me. I was wrong." Ha! LeBlanc jolts awake, gasping for air. It was a dream. She remembers now. She collapsed after destroying the relic. Slumping back into the pillows, a new wave of panic hits her. What do I do about that Nuit? Everyone in the doubled household, even the Duke, had been so kind. But her heart aches with fear. What if these people come to hate me too? Suddenly, a massive clap of thunder shakes the room, making her jump. Eek! It's just thunder! Her spiraling thoughts are cut short by voices outside her door. It's her nanny, Leah, her face etched with concern. The maids are whispering anxiously. Is the baby all right? The doctor said he doesn't know the cause, right? Leah explains. We gave her fever medicine for now. But she's cut off by a sudden, sharp gasp. They all whip around to look at the bed, and it's empty. The baby. A cold dread washes over Leah's face. The room is silent. LeBlanc is gone. The Duke's adjutant bursts into a study, his face pale with terror. Your Excellency! The baby has disappeared! The news hits like a physical blow. The brown-haired man is stunned, but a young white-haired man with piercing blue eyes looks absolutely furious. The adjutant is already sprinting down the hall, his desperate shouts echoing through the mansion. Baby! The entire mansion is in an uproar as the maids desperately call out for LeBlanc. The young white-haired man considers the possibilities, wondering if she's just wandering around looking for bread, but the brown-haired man confirms the worst. They've already checked and she's gone. His mind immediately jumps to darker conclusions. Assassins, kidnappers, or perhaps the Senate who resent the child of destiny. Suddenly, a shout from the maids cuts through the chaos. His eyes snap towards the sound. They rush outside, and there, standing alone in the pouring rain, is a tiny, shivering figure. LeBlanc looks completely broken, lost in her own world of fear and despair. Leah's heart shatters as she rushes to the child's side. Her tiny hands tremble uncontrollably. But she's not alone. Duke Doubled has found her, his voice cutting through the rain. She looks up at him, her eyes hollow and filled with a sorrow no child should ever know. Then she takes a step forward. Barefoot on the cold, wet stone, she walks right up to the fearsome Duke. And with a smile that could break your heart, she holds out a tiny, crushed carnation. I wike the Duke's carnation. But the smile vanishes as quickly as it came, replaced by a flood of desperate tears. I'm sorry I did bad. Please forgive me. Her mind flashes back to the cold dismissal of the man with glasses, and the overwhelming terror she felt after destroying the relic. Watching from the sidelines, Leah can only stare in horrified silence, her heart shattering for the little girl. The brown-haired man watches from a distance, his expression troubled. But from Duke Doubled, there is only a cold, unreadable silence. His gaze falls to her small, bare feet on the cold stone, and for the first time, the heart of the Empire's greatest villain is pricked by a strange, unfamiliar feeling. Regret. Suddenly, LeBlanc finds herself in a grand bathroom, her mind racing with terror. What are you going to do to me? She panics, thinking her pathetic little flower wasn't enough to earn his forgiveness. After all, she broke Nuit. Her traumatized mind immediately leaps to the worst possible conclusion: water torture. But instead of cruelty, the Duke simply places a basin of warm water in front of her. LeBlanc looks up, her eyes wide with utter shock. He gently takes her tiny, scraped foot into his large hands and asks softly, "Does it hurt?" Terrified, LeBlanc shakes her head, insisting she's not hurt. An awkward silence hangs between them. But finally she admits, a whittle. At her confession, his touch becomes even gentler. Instead of a punishment, he simply tells her not to wander around the castle at night. LeBlanc is stunned. He's not mad. Then he gently pats her on the head, and with the faintest hint of a smile, he says, "I'm not angry." In that single moment, all her fear melts away. The pain is gone, and the Duke isn't scary anymore. A new day dawns over the Doubled estate. For days, LeBlanc felt like she was walking on thin ice, but true to his word, the Duke never scolded her. Cautiously, she'd watch him, but he never showed even the slightest sign of dislike. Then one day, peeking into his office, she sees it. He didn't throw away the crushed flower. He displayed it. She can't understand. Why isn't he angry? This is the infamous Duke of Doubled, a man of terrifying reputation. And yet the maids happily gossip that he's even started eating meals with her. Looking around for a familiar face, she asks, Where's Leah? The maids explain that her nanny is preparing to receive merchants, and LeBlanc realizes he's buying a new gift for the Emperor to replace the Nuit she broke. A huge, genuine smile spreads across her face as she declares, "I wike Doubled." The maids absolutely melt at the sight, suggesting they visit the library while they wait. And for the first time, filled with pure joy, LeBlanc shouts, "I wike that!" The sheer scale of the Doubled library leaves her absolutely speechless. One of the maids eagerly tells her to pick any book she likes. But the Doubled staff have unique tastes in literature, recommending a book titled 101 Ways to Swindle People. A surprisingly buff maid offers her own suggestion: people who deserve a beating beat them. Not to be outdone, another maid insists that a guide to money lending is the superior choice. As the maids devolve into a chaotic debate over the legality of their preferred crimes, LeBlanc is left to fend for herself. She reminds herself that she has to pretend she can't read, so she'll just pick one with a nice cover. Her eyes land on a strange, titleless book that seems to be calling to her. It radiates a dark, powerful energy, unlike anything else in the pristine library. Opening it, she finds an ancient script that speaks of the founding emperor's greatest feat: defeating Ivan, a servant of the evil god. The ancient text reveals that according to Ivan's records, there are 2 conditions for manifesting the evil god's powers. First, one must make contact with a divine relic, which acts as a key to awaken dormant power. And second, one must acquire a medium, which allows that power to be exercised. LeBlanc stares, completely baffled. A relic to awaken power, and a medium to use it. A chill runs down her spine. This feels incredibly ominous. Of all the forbidden knowledge in the Doubled library, why did it have to be about an evil god? The book then speaks of the Empire's guardian deity, the righteous god Nereid. It describes how Nereid sealed away the evil god, the source of all calamity for the sake of mankind. But as time passed, that divine seal began to weaken. And to reseal the evil god, the power of the child of fate was needed. The power of Mina. The book's words trigger a horrifying memory. The sealing ritual required a sacrifice. And in her first life, that sacrifice was her. A gentle voice snaps her back to reality. Thinking fast, LeBlaine puts on her best scared toddler face. I was scared of the Weon. And the maids absolutely melt, squealing over how precious she is for being scared of a lion in a book. LeBlaine deadpans. Their reaction is a little much, but she plays along, following her nanny Leah out of the library. Leah turns to her with a warm smile. Just then, LeBlaine's ears perk up. The traders are here? When Leah asks if she wants to see them, LeBlaine explodes with excitement. I like it. The maids can barely handle the cuteness. The scene cuts to a trader, awestruck as he stands in the magnificent doubled audience chamber. His eyes fixate on a grand tapestry, recognizing it instantly. That's the founding emperor's tapestry. It's really written in the ancient language. He begins to tell its story, a legendary artifact. The Duke doubled himself obtained through conquest. The trader explains to his audience, even the imperial palace wanted it, but they couldn't take it from the Duke. That tapestry became the ultimate symbol of Doubled's military power. He tells LeBlaine that admiring nobles began a new trend, decorating their own mansions with tapestries, and of course he's here to sell the latest, most fashionable designs. The trend has clearly caught on, as even the Doubled staff admire the decor. LeBlaine nods sagely, understanding the simple truth. Most nobles just copied the idea. Just then, the head trader steps forward, announcing his arrival to the Duke. But as LeBlaine gets a good look at him, she recognizes the man instantly. Merchant Turba. And she is not happy to see him. Turba lays on the flattery thick, thanking the Duke for his patronage. The Duke cuts straight to the point. He needs a replacement for the Nuit. Turba confidently states he's the only merchant who can handle such a request, a testament to his legendary rags-to-riches story. But LeBlaine knows the truth. Turba is a notorious conman who once scammed the imperial family with forged art, causing a massive scandal. She glares at him, thinking, are you really going to try scamming the Doubleds too? As if on cue, Turba presents his prize item, a glowing stone tablet covered in ancient script. He declares it's a legendary tablet that received a divine oracle in ancient times. The vassals are immediately impressed, buzzing that a holy relic of the main god is a far better replacement for the evil god's Nuit. The brown-haired man adds that it would be a perfect birthday gift for his excellency. But Duke Doubled isn't so easily swayed, questioning if the tablet is truly prophetic. Turba confidently replies that a similar item is recorded in history, and its divine power has already been verified. The vassals are completely sold, agreeing that if the temple examined it, it must be legitimate. Turba launches into a passionate performance, insisting he personally found the tablet on an ancient plateau. He spins a grand tale of surviving a monster attack, all because he knew this relic would one day help someone. And the vassals are eating it up, with one even moved to tears by his harrowing journey. The Duke, however, cuts straight through the theatrics. Enough talk, what is the price? Turba names his price, a cool 100 million francs, causing the vassals to gasp in shock. 100 million? That's the kind of money used for a national budget, an astronomical sum even for the wealthy Doubled family. The adjutant looks worried, admitting that there's no other item that can replace the Nuit. But just as the Duke is being cornered, LeBlaine shouts, LeBlaine wanna see! Merchant Turba's eyes gleam, seeing a new angle to play. She immediately turns on the charm, acting like the most innocent child in the world. The Duke watches her carefully. Turba seizes the opportunity, grandly welcoming the child of fate to inspect the relic up close. The adjutant panics, worried she'll break the ridiculously expensive item. But LeBlaine just plops right down in front of it as Turba tries to sell the power of the gods. Then, Turba lays his trap, suggesting that as the child of fate, she should be able to read the ancient text for them. The adjutant immediately objects, but Turba laughs it off and begins to translate a line himself, one perfectly tailored to manipulate the Duke. But before Turba can finish his fake translation, LeBlaine interrupts, reading the tablet herself. Here lies at rest. The entire room is stunned into silence. Turba's face drains of all color, his con completely exposed. With a devastatingly sweet smile, LeBlaine calls him out. revealing his priceless holy relic is nothing more than a common gravestone. She gives a smug little glance, satisfied with her work. The adjutant is completely floored, wondering how a child could possibly read a dead language, and he's right to be shocked. In this era, the ancient script is virtually indecipherable, even for the temple's high priests. But LeBlanc knows from her past life that a living translation of the language eventually appears. And it was her. She recalls that by the time she died, only 3 people in the entire world had managed to master the ancient script. The first of those 3 was the future crown prince, Adrian Luerg. The second was the Duke of Doubled's eldest son, Johann Doubled. And the third was me. With her past life's knowledge, she knows Turba's entire story is a fabrication. The gravestone he's peddling isn't from the ancient plateau at all. It's from a place called Kalisis. And a quick look at a map shows Kalisis is on the complete opposite side of the continent. The room erupts in chaos as the vassals can't believe what they're hearing. A gravestone? LeBlanc just gives a confident little nod. Yup. But Turba is already screaming that it's absurd. Even the adjutant, completely stunned, turns to the 4-year-old for confirmation. LeBlanc steels herself, putting on her best innocent child act. As Turba grabs her, demanding answers, she's already got the perfect lie locked and loaded. With wide, sparkling eyes, she puts on the performance of a lifetime, thinking, "Look at me, I'm just an innocent 4-year-old." And the vassals completely eat it up, charmed by her cuteness and convinced a child couldn't possibly lie. But behind that innocent face is a cold calculation as she thinks, "I know this will work, because Mina used to do the exact same thing." She recalls a memory of Mina being questioned about her divine knowledge, how Mina would just flash a dazzling, innocent smile. And the temple officials would immediately praise her as the true child of fate, born with the power of the gods. That's when LeBlanc learned how to weaponize that title, and she realizes with a smirk, "Technically, I'm still the child of fate right now." But Turba isn't falling for it, screaming, "Lies!" He desperately plays his final card, shouting that the temple itself will verify his relic is real. He leans in with a sneer, "But how will you prove that a mere baby can read an ancient script?" LeBlanc fires back, "Proof? You just forged something anyway." The doubled vassals look nervous. They don't know what to believe. Turba scoffs, "Only the founding emperor could write that script. You expect us to believe a child can read it?" LeBlanc knows this is different from her past life. Unlike Mina, she's the child of fate who has to prove herself. But a tiny, confident smile spreads across her face. She turns, her voice ringing out as she begins to recite a phrase in the ancient language. "Freed Enesis Simon Calliard." The words are flawless, spoken with an authority that defies her age. Duke Doubled's eyes widen in utter shock. He recognizes it instantly. The founding emperor's true name. The room erupts, the vassals are stunned. She just spoke the legendary, long-lost name of the empire's founder. LeBlanc's knowledge comes from a dark, forgotten history. The founding emperor's middle name, Simon, belongs to a cursed tribe descended from the evil god, a truth so taboo it was forbidden, because the great emperor himself was born from this cursed bloodline. To protect their divine image, the imperial family tried to bury this secret. They erased his name from every record, making his true identity a secret known only to a select few. With a brilliant smile, LeBlanc thinks, "And for me to know it is undeniable proof that I can read the ancient script." The vassals are stunned. They can't comprehend it, whispering that she must truly be the child of fate. Even the Duke's men are impressed by her cleverness, but then a thought suddenly strikes them. Wait, if she's right, then that means Turba was trying to scam us. Cornered, Turba makes a last desperate plea, claiming he's just a man of faith. But the Duke has heard enough. His voice cuts through the chaos, cold and final. "Adjutant." With a chilling smile, the Duke scoffs, "How ridiculous. You demand proof from a child, but you can't answer a simple question yourself?" Turba is paralyzed by pure, unadulterated fear. LeBlanc knows that look. The Duke was suspicious from the very beginning. "It seems I've become rather lenient lately," the Duke muses aloud. "In seeing as even gnats dare to crawl up this far." He rises from his throne and gives a chilling order to his adjutant, "Knox, escort this overflowing devotee of God to the dungeon. He will bring me a definite answer about that tablet." The Duke's eyes glow with menace as he adds, "Even if we have to cut open that belly to find his faith." Knox bows his head, his voice steady. "Yes, Your Excellency." Merchant Turba panics, reaching out in a last desperate plea, but it's useless. The mere threat of the doubled dungeons is enough to make him spill everything before the interrogation even starts. Knox reports the full confession to Duke Doubled. Turba needed money to buy a specific holy relic for a trade with the Pope. Peeking from behind the desk, LeBlanc wonders what could possibly be worth such a risk. Knox presents a drawing of the relic, and LeBlanc's blood runs cold. She recognizes it instantly. It's the étoile, the holy relic that allowed Mina to unleash her tremendous power in her first life. It was the ultimate proof of being the true child of fate. But as she examines the drawing, she notices a crucial detail. Mina's étoile was platinum, but this one is gold. The jewels are different too. With a gasp, she realizes this isn't the étoile currently guarded by the temple. The news of this discovery reaches others in the mansion. The young white-haired man smirks. A second étoile has appeared. The young white-haired man presses for details. The étoile is the symbol of divine power, so where is it? The brown-haired man explains, it's at the bottom of the sea, but there's a problem. He reveals the relic is located just 10 meters inside foreign waters, making it politically untouchable. This means the Imperial Church can't retrieve it without sparking an international war. LeBlanc connects the dots. Turbo was trying to broker a deal with a foreign king for the relic. Duke Doubled decides they will secure the étoile themselves, but LeBlanc wonders if he'll actually negotiate. He scoffs at the idea. With a terrifyingly casual smile, the Duke offers his solution. We can just go to war. His subordinate doesn't even flinch, simply replying, Understood. I'll make the preparations. LeBlanc is utterly stunned, making a mental note to never ever get on this man's bad side. As the casual talk of war settles, the brown-haired man stands before the Duke's desk. Suddenly he beams, exclaiming, This is all thanks to the baby! LeBlanc is completely baffled. He explains that by destroying the fake relic, she led them to discover the second étoile, and LeBlanc realizes he has a point. But she only cares about one person's opinion. Will the Duke think so too? Steeling her nerves, she decides to find out. She gives a tiny tug on Duke Doubled's sleeve. His sharp eyes immediately flick down to her. Unleashing her ultimate charm offensive, she holds up her arms and pleads, Duke, please hold me. The fearsome Duke Doubled is frozen, completely caught off guard by her request. With shimmering, tear-filled eyes, she promises, LeBlanc will be a good girl. I can grow up nicely all on my own without causing trouble. The vassals are speechless. Clasping her hands together, she makes her final, desperate plea. So please, Duke, please be my daddy. And then the Duke reaches for her. He lifts the tiny child into his arms. A soft smile touches his lips as he says, Like this then. LeBlanc snuggles into his embrace, thinking that even if he didn't agree to be her father, this is enough for now. Overwhelmed with joy, she realizes the Duke doesn't hate her. He's actually smiling at her. But later, as she sits alone by the fire, a strange power suddenly flares to life in her hand. Thanks for watching. See you in next C chapters. Bye.